Hey, it's Heather Buchman here. I'm back for our Home Buying 101 series, and today I want to talk about why it's really important to talk to a lender even before you start going out and going to look at houses. You know, I know most of us already have a monthly budget probably set up, or we might be paying rent, or we actually have a mortgage and we know all our bills. So we know that we might want, what amount of money we want to spend on a monthly payment for a house, right? I mean, that's a good starting point to say, hey, I know I can pay whatever, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. So that's a good starting point. But what does that all mean to you on how much of a house you can afford, what the interest rates are? There's so much that goes into the amount of house that you can afford if you're getting a loan that you really want to talk to a lender and not just do one of those online calculators, which is a good start, but you really want to talk to a lender. So your lender is going to take all of your information that you give them, like your social security number, and they're going to pretty much just start with a credit check. They're going to run it and they're going to just see your debt to income ratio. They're gonna see what your credit score is, and they're gonna kind of from there say, hey, I think we can get you, a house about $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000, whatever, it comes out to. They're gonna have some estimates based on running some quick numbers for you. This is usually preliminary. They're just asking for some general stuff, like maybe your social security number so they can check it, right? Because what they're going to look for with your credit score is, are you making payments on time? Is your credit score where they need to be for a loan? Usually right now it's about 640. If not, what they're going to do is they're going to provide you some tips and tricks to possibly raise your credit score a little bit to get to that magic number where they can qualify for you a loan. And the only, the better thing is too, the higher your credit score, the better interest rate you're going to get on a house. And the lower your interest rate, kind of the more house you can afford, right? You don't want to just pay interest and, high rates and not really put the money towards your house. So that's for, step number one. When you talk to a lender, they're going to kind of run your credit score and check for you. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, it's going to raise my credit score, because, somebody's doing a hard check. It's not going to raise it that much, and really you can shop from lender to lender. If you've already talked to one lender, usually within a 30-day period, if you talk to a couple different lenders, it won't jump your score that much, because what they want you to do is really shop around and get a lender that's going to give you some good interest rates. So I wouldn't worry about it. If you're serious about buying a house, I wouldn't worry too much about it jumping your credit score, because what your lender is going to be able to do is check your credit score, and they're going to be able to give you tips that will help you make it go even higher if need to. And I did a whole video on that. I can drop a link on it, or it's in my play thing, but you really want to know those numbers before you really start buying a house. And that leads me to number two. So once they kind of run those preliminary numbers for you, they're going to ask you for some more detailed information. If they know that they can approve you for a loan based on some preliminary conversations, what they're going to want to do is really start verifying that. So they'll probably ask for your W-2s, maybe some pay stubs, your bank statements, just a whole pile of different information that kind of verifies everything that you said. Everybody trusts everybody else, but what they need to know is, are there hidden fees or costs that, you may have forgot to mention that they can actually see when they run these reports for you. So they're going to look at all this personal information, but don't worry, they're keeping it 100% confidential. My lender doesn't even tell that stuff to me. It's just between you and them, and they work out the deal on how much of a house that you can afford. So that's starts leading you to getting a pre-approval, right? But the other thing is, when you're starting this process, you're gonna have a ton of questions. I know you will, because I always did, right? So you're gonna want to have somebody that's going to be able to answer all of these questions for you. And that's, super helpful, because I don't know all the ins and outs. And if somebody came up to me and said, hey, just because you can afford a $2,000 a month, based on your numbers, I might come back and say, whoa, I'm not really comfortable right there. I think I want to keep my payments at maybe $1,800 a month. So when you start having those real conversations with a lender, it will really help you understand where you're going. And a lot of times we have to put money down. We'll talk about that later, but you have to put money down at the closing table to help pay for, costs of recordation, transfers, and all of that. And that closing cost has to be accounted for at the very beginning. So your lender is not only going to tell you, hey, if you qualify for a loan of this amount, make sure you set aside, this amount for your down payment. We'll talk a little bit more about some different options there. But the nice thing is when you start talking to a lender early in the process, they're going to answer some of these questions for you. They're going to make sure you have that money set aside to buy the house and you're not just running forward and trying to get there. And then you're out house shopping and you realize you're buying a house bigger than you probably can afford, or, for more money or something than you can afford, or you find a dream house and you don't have the necessary approvals to, actually move forward. Because once your lender has answered all your questions and told you how much money you need for a down payment and reviewed your information, what they're going to do is issue a pre-approval letter. And that pre-approval letter is going to basically be a summary of everything they just told you. Like, you can afford X, Y, Z amount, your interest rates as of today are going to be about this. You're going to need about this much, down payment. Some of this won't go in the actual letter, but maybe a separate estimate. But what happens is that pre-qualification letter is given to you, but you give a copy to, your real estate agent who's working, like I said before, on your behalf to negotiate any deals. And they're going to be able to use that to help guide you to find that house that's in your price range, right? They're going to also use that to submit any offer. So you found your dream home today. We write up an offer and we submit that offer to the seller and say, hey, I'm willing to, put in this much and close in this amount of time. That seller wants that pre-qualification letter to verify you can afford to pay that house and buy that house, right? Because if you're not pre-qualified, I'm telling you right now, that offer is pretty much going in the trash. Because you're just wasting everybody's time by doing a home search and looking for a house when you don't have that letter in your hand, right? So it's really important to talk to a lender really, really early in the process. Talk to your real estate agent, talk to your lender are the first two steps before you really start searching for houses and going out there and looking at them. Because nobody wants to find a house, and it's just happened to one of my buyers, is you don't want to go out there and find a house and not really have the right loans in place and the pre-qualifications that you want to put an offer in, but you can't because you don't have that, and it takes maybe a day to get all the paperwork that you need and get it over to the lender, or maybe there's some credit things that they want you to just try to work out before it's approved. You want to have that all taken care of and squared away and set and ready to go, because this market's moving fast. I'm not going to lie, the housing market is moving fast. You just want to be able to go in, submit an offer, have all the paperwork that you need together so you get a good chance of winning, right? So I'm trying to go through my notes so I don't forget anything. So once you have all of that in place, you're pretty much ready to go. Your realtor is going to take that information. They're going to help you find the house. You guys are going to go outside and help, start looking for a house. And you're pretty much on the first steps of moving forward, right? You're excited, you got the approvals, you've got your realtor. My next step, I'm going to kind of tell you about, there's a couple different loan types that we can talk about. Your lender's going to know you specifically, but today let's leave it at that, right? If you don't have a lender that you're working with, reach out to me. I work with some really, really great local lenders who know the market, who know the place, who can get things done, who can solve problems. I had a buyer that was trying to buy a house, and a seller was calling me crying, which doesn't normally happen. She just happened to have my phone number, calling me crying because she felt she was going to be homeless if she sold the house, so she was trying to back out. What happened was that she was using one of those big name banks, the ones that you find on every street corner, and I'm not saying there's anything bad with them, but she became a number. They were just asking the information over and over and over from her. They were passing her off from one person to another. It was just kind of, it was stressing her out because she didn't have that one person that was sitting there and helping her and guiding her. I've had another one that was based out of, like Florida. Their lender wasn't even local. They didn't know the codes or the grants or anything like that. So having a local lender that's really good in what they do is going to help you really succeed in this market. So if you're thinking about buying a house and you haven't talked to a lender yet, definitely just reach out to me. I will hook you up with some of the best ones in the market area that I can highly recommend, because they've saved many of my deals, not just for my clients, but kind of, like I said, for the seller on the other side. And that's amazing when you can turnaround and you know that you're going to close on time because your lender is working for you and not taking weekends off because they work for a big bank that doesn't work weekends, right? So with that, guys, you know, Home Buying 101, if you're thinking about buying a house, I have a free home buyer's guide that you can just email me or text me and I'll send it over to you. If you have any questions, just reach out. If you're thinking about buying or selling, call me. I'd love to help. But here's my tip for the day is definitely talk to a lender before you really start moving forward, because you don't want to get disappointed that you find your dream house and you realize it might just be a little bit outside your price range. With that, have a great day, guys. Bye.